This is the FPL Draft Zone, your fantasy team's best signing of the season.
Hello and welcome to the FPL Draft Zone, a podcast all about draft FPL. I am Dom Crofts. I hope you're well, and yeah, the international break. It's the second one of the season, and we're only in October. When will they learn? But have no worry, have no fear. We are here today to ensure that you still get your fill of FPL content. And today is a good one because we're going to be taking a look at all the underlying stats from the season so far. We're looking at your XGs, we're looking at your XGCs, we're looking at your X points, we're looking at your XGIs, anything beginning with an X, basically. And we're going to be forming an opinion based on those stats as to what might happen in the Premier League next. So you can start to think about your waivers ahead of game week 8 and plan accordingly. But before we get into it, it's just my weekly request right here, right now, to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. It's the best way to ensure you never miss anything we do. If you're new to this channel, please like and subscribe as well. And if you do not yet follow us on our socials, what on earth are you doing? We're on X and we're on Instagram at FPL Draft Zone. We're on Blue Sky at fpldraftzone.bsky.social. And if you just want a little chat by email, we're at fpldraftzone@outlook.com. But as I said, this is a stat-heavy show we've got for you today. So if you like your stats, you've come to the right place. And what's the first stat we're going to look at? The most simple of all stats, the stat known as the Premier League table. And there it is, the top 10 after 7 weeks. And the top 2 are 2 sides that you would probably expect to be occupying the top 2 spaces, although not necessarily in this order. Arsenal at top of the pile after 7 games. They have 16 points. Liverpool are in second place with 15. Behind them, though, a couple of surprising sides in the top 4. Tottenham Hotspur are in third place. They've won 4 of their opening 7 games. Have Bournemouth, who are in 4th. Manchester City are not far behind. They're in 5th. And then there are a couple of sides in the top half of the table who are surprising. Everton in 8th, Sunderland in 9th, and the clown car that is Manchester United. Maybe the final laugh will be on us all, guys, because they are in the top 10 as we speak. A word as well for Crystal Palace, who are, of course, in 6th and are having one hell of a start to the season. As to the bottom half of the table, a few sides that you would expect to be doing better who certainly aren't right now. Aston Villa are in 13th, although to be fair to them, they have won their last 2, so they seem to be on the up. Newcastle United, I don't think many people would have expected them to be in the bottom half of the table after 7 weeks, but they are, albeit only just. And of course, Nottingham Forest down in 17th place. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games, and their Big Ange introduction does not appear to be going very well. But that's the league table. You could have looked the league table up on any website in the world. But what about if the league table was based purely on XG? That league table looks very different. And thanks to our friends at Understat, we happen to have that league table. Here is the top 10. On top of the pile are Crystal Palace, who have created more XG than any other side in the Premier League. 14.54 expected goals from their first 7 games. They have only scored 9 goals, so they're underperforming that XG by 5.54 goals. They are the biggest underperformers for this metric in the league. But it just shows you that even though some people were wondering if they're sort of overachieving in 6th place, I don't think they are. They're scoring a lot of goals. They're creating a lot of chances. They've got 4 home games in their next 6. And I think they are there or thereabouts where you should expect them to be come the end of the season if they continue this form. Interestingly, in second place in this league table for expected goals are Manchester United. Yes, them. 13.97 XG they've created across 7 games. That is the second best in the league. Again, like Palace, they've only scored 9 goals. They're the second biggest XG underperformers in the league. But it just shows you that if they can sort things out at the back and they can become a little bit more ruthless in goal, they're certainly creating the chances that would suggest that they can finish higher up in the table than they currently are. They're currently 10th. Ruben Amorim under a huge amount of pressure, but maybe just maybe these underlying statistics are telling you that it's not quite as bad at Manchester United as you might expect. Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool, and Chelsea are 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th in the expected goals table. They all rank highly, as you might expect. But arguably, Brighton and Everton are higher than you would think, particularly Everton. I mean, Brighton are always good for a goal, but Everton in 8th place there, doing very well indeed. The impact of the Hill Dickinson playing its part there. They are, of course, unbeaten at home so far this season. And, of course, the likes of Dewsbury Hall and Jack Grealish have added a great deal to the final third for the Toffees. And the bottom half of the XG table, you may have noticed that they weren't in the top half, and that's because they are in the bottom half. Tottenham Hotspur down in 14th place. They are 14th best in the league for XG, and that's despite them currently sitting 3rd in the Premier League. They've only created 7.64 XG this season. They've scored 13 times, which is the biggest overperformance in the league in this metric. They're struggling to create big chances, and you'd have to say that if they're barely creating 1 goal's worth of a chance a game, is it sustainable for them to remain in the top 3 or 4 in this league? I would argue it is not. And their next run is tricky. They have Aston Villa next, then they go to the Hill Dickinson to play Everton before they have games against Chelsea, Manchester United, and Arsenal. So I think after those next 5 games, Spurs' league position may well look very different to where they are right now. You can also see in this bottom half of the XG league table, Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest also struggling. Villa in 16th and Forest in 17th. Villa, of course, are on the up. They've won their last 2, but whether or not they can continue that form, we will find out over the next few weeks. That's your XG league table. But what about your XGC? We've already seen this season that defense is hugely important, more important than ever this season with the advent of defensive contributions, but also with the likes of set pieces becoming more and more key. More defenders are getting goals, getting into attacking opportunities. You look at this league table and you would automatically think that Arsenal would be the most defensively solid team in the league. But if you thought that, you would be wrong, because top of the XGC league right now, after 7 games, are Newcastle United. They have the best defense in the Premier League based on these underlying statistics. They have given up less than 5 goals worth of XG, 4.98 to be exact. And that is despite having already had to play the champions and the pretenders to the crown, Liverpool and Arsenal. That is hugely impressive from Newcastle United. So that is something to consider on the waivers this week when you're looking at defenders. Newcastle United look very solid indeed. More solid, in fact, than any other team in the Premier League, including Arsenal, who have the 2nd best record for XGC. They've given up 5.04 XG so far. They've only conceded 3 goals, so they're overachieving in that metric. We already know how good Arsenal are defensively, and they will continue to be excellent, I'm sure. But surprising, perhaps, that they're not the best team defensively based on these underlying stats. Bournemouth are the 3rd best performing team from a defensive perspective. They've only given up 6.54's worth of XG. They have conceded 8 times, so they are underachieving slightly. And then there's Manchester City, who have an XGC of 7.45. They've conceded 6 goals, so they are overachieving. That is your top 4 for XGC. So a couple of surprises there. Newcastle at the top, Bournemouth doing really, really well. Words as well for Leeds United, who have the 5th best defensive record in terms of their underlying statistics. I thought the bedrock of their team would be their attack this year, but it looks like if they're going to survive a relegation battle, it's going to be because of their defense. They've conceded more than they should have. They've only given up 8.17 worth of XG. They've conceded 11 goals. So they've been very unlucky there. But if they continue that sort of form, then they may well be okay. They've got a good run of games coming up as well. Spurs and Aston Villa are also in the top 10 here. They're not creating enough in attack, Spurs, but defensively they are very solid. And Aston Villa, who have started to score goals, had already shown a bit of defensive now. So they've had a couple of clean sheets already this season. Interestingly, we talked about Liverpool a lot and about whether or not they are as defensively solid as perhaps they might be. Well, this league table tells you that they are not. They've given up 9.68's worth of XG, and they sit 9th in the league based purely on expected goals conceded. The worst performing teams, so the teams in the bottom half of this league, unsurprisingly at the bottom are Burnley. It was their defensive strength that got them promoted. They were unbelievable at the back of the Championship, but that has not translated to the Premier League. They've given up 15.7 worth of XG after 7 games. So that means they're pretty much on the verge of conceding 2 goals every game. And Nottingham Forest under Ange Postecoglou have fallen off a cliff. They have the second worst record in the league for expected goals conceded at 14.44. Manchester United are another side to look at here. We've already spoken about their attacking threat, but in terms of their defensive ability and their defensive stability, it is ropey. They've given up the 4th biggest amount of XG so far this season, 10.37. They sit 17th in this league. And a couple of places above them, again, a bit of a surprise, Crystal Palace, who have given up 9.96. They obviously have got this tremendous defensive record, the second best in the league in terms of goals conceded. They've only conceded 5, but they should have conceded nearer 10. So they are hugely overperforming. And like Spurs, from an attacking point of view, you look at Crystal Palace from a defensive point of view, and you have to ask the question, is what they're doing at the moment sustainable based on these underlying statistics? You combine the XG and the XGC to create a league table based on expected points, then the league table does look significantly different to what it does in reality. The league leader is the same. Arsenal are top. They have an expected points tally of 14.44, when in reality they've got 16 points. So they're overachieving in terms of their points accrued. Manchester City would be second, though. Crystal Palace would be third, and Bournemouth would be fourth. So the first question you have to ask is, where are Liverpool? Well, they're not fifth, because that honour goes to Newcastle United, who would be nearly 3 points better off based on their expected points, and right up at the right end of the table. And interestingly, in 6th place, based on expected points, Manchester United. So for all the criticism that Ruben Amorim has had, and let's face it, I think a lot of it is warranted, they would be 6th based on this expected points table, ahead of the champions, Liverpool, who would be down in 7th, a lot worse off than they are right now. Chelsea would also be in a significantly different position, down in 9th. United, let's look at them. They're 6th for expected points based on a combination of their XG and XGC, ahead of Liverpool, as we said. They're 7th based on X points. We spoke about Liverpool getting a little bit lucky with those last-minute winners, and whether or not that was a sign of real champions, or whether it was highlighting that perhaps there were some bigger issues at hand. I think when you look at this league table, it's looking like bigger issues, isn't it? We've already highlighted their fullback problems. I don't think Kirk has settled particularly well. I think Frimpong is extremely attacking fullback. Both their attacking fullbacks are more interested in going forward than defending, perhaps. And it's that balance they've not quite managed to get right yet. And that's illustrated here in this expected points table. At the bottom half of the expected points table, again, you've got to highlight Spurs, who would be 13th. They just have to find more firepower and attack. Their defense is solid as a rock, but attacking-wise, they really have got a lot of work to do. And I don't think they're going to be able to retain a top 4 place unless they find a bit more attacking threat. And Sunderland, obviously, in the current Premier League table, are a top half team. But in reality, when you combine their XG and their XGC, they would be more akin to where you'd expect them probably at the end of the season, 14th in the X-Point League at the moment. So again, you'd have to argue and question rather whether or not their current position is a little bit unrealistic. A couple of other teams to flag: Aston Villa. We've mentioned that they've won their last 2 games in a row and that the next few games will dictate their season ambitions, but they are down in 16th in the expected points league table right now. And Nottingham Forest, I mean, if anything highlights the sort of trouble they're in right now, it is this. They are the 4th worst in the league for expected goals, and they are the 2nd worst in the league for expected goals conceded. And when you combine those two things, they are 19th in the league for expected points. I suspect Ange Postecoglou has an uphill task keeping his job at the City ground. So in terms of all those statistics, who are the defensive assets we should be looking to target over the next few weeks when this tedious international break comes to an end. Well, Newcastle United, as we said, are the top team for XGC in the league, the most defensively solid team out there, more solid than Arsenal. Kieran Trippier and Malik Thiaw are most likely to be available on the waivers. Kieran Trippier has the added advantage of taking set pieces. He was crossed corners in their win over Nottingham Forest at the weekend. Arsenal, as we all know, defensively fantastic. They've conceded just 3 goals so far this season. They've not conceded more than 2 goals in a Premier League game since a 4-3 win over Luton Town back in 2023. Obviously, their defensive assets will be hard to get on the waivers. Can you get one via a trade? If you can, it may well be worth it given how tight they are at the back. And then you look at teams like Bournemouth and Manchester City, where there should be options available to you. Statistically, Bournemouth have the 3rd best defense in the division, 6.54 expected goals conceded. They have conceded 8 so far, so they are underachieving that number, but hopefully things will even out sooner rather than later. The likes of Diakite may be free on the waivers. If not, their right back slot is still up for debate, with Jimenez getting the nod more often than not, but Hill starting at the weekend in that Friday night game. Manchester City, well, their fullback slots are up for debate as well. Ryan Aït-Nouri is verging towards a comeback, but if he's not fit for game week 8, Nico O'Reilly has started the last few. Mateus Nunes has had a very positive impact at right back as well, and he is probably going to get the nod again ahead of the likes of Rico Lewis, with Kusanov still an injury doubt. A couple of other teams with very good underlying defensive numbers are Leeds United. They have the 5th best in the division, and they've got very good fixtures coming up. So while you may have a little bit of trepidation about placing your faith in a Leeds United defender, Burnley away, West Ham at home, Brighton away, Nottingham Forest away, and Aston Villa at home coming up. There's certainly a couple of games in there where you would back them to maybe get a clean sheet or 2. And Spurs, for all their attacking woes, defensively, they have conceded just 8.94's worth of XGC. And Destiny Udogie is the most likely of their defenders to be available on the waivers. He has started the last 3 in a row now. And I think it's fair to say he has made a very positive impact on the time he spent on the pitch. In terms of further forward, the attacking assets to target, well, Crystal Palace, as we said, are the best team in the league based on XG. Their key assets are likely to be taken, although if Assar is available, do all you can to get him in. I think Yeremy Pino is a possible route into their side. He's playing very well. His underlying statistics are very good, and I think it's a matter of time before they translate into FPL points. Manchester United are 2nd best for XG. I'll say that again. It's true. Manchester United are 2nd best for XG, 4.97 worth of goals. Cunha, Mount, Amad Diallo, all viable options for them. I think any of them could either be on the waivers or in the form of Cunha could be a possible trade option. Chelsea have also had a very good start in terms of their attacking output. They're 6th best for XG at 12.24. They have actually scored 13 goals, so they are slightly overperforming that number. And again, they have a lot of players who could be worth taking a punt on, who could easily turn out to be first-team regulars going forward. Esteval Villian keeps on returning. He scored the winner, of course, against Liverpool. Garnacho started that game as well and is their most natural left-sided attacker. Neto, I think some managers may have lost patience with him given his lack of an attacking output. And if there's any way you can get a trade over the line for Enzo, his underlying numbers are excellent. We also wanted to take a look at the top point scorers in FPL so far this season, because there are a few surprising names on this list. We've got the top 20 for you. On your screen now are the top 10. And the top 2 players, probably not a huge surprise. Erling Haaland leading the way with 70 points. He is scoring for fun. Antoine Semenyo, I think most people would have expected to be in the top 10 or 15, maybe not as high as 2nd. But since August 2024, no player in the Premier League, and that includes strikers like Erling Haaland and midfielders like Mo Salah, has had more shots than Antoine Semenyo. So over the last year and a bit, Antoine Semenyo has had more shots at goal than any other player in the Premier League. And shots lead to points quite a lot of the time. The other interesting thing to flag here is that 6 of the top 10 are defenders. You've got the likes of Jurrien Timber and Gabriel, who are both a threat at the back and a threat going forward. A lot of clean sheet potential. Gabriel, a huge threat from set pieces. Jurrien Timber has really upped his game from an attacking standpoint as well this season. Senesi is in there. He is a real leader in terms of DEFCON points. Mark Gay, he's had a very strong start to the season, got a goal as well. Dan Byrne and Calafiori are also in here as well. So it just shows the influence and the impact defenders are having in FPL this season. Numbers 11 to 20, interesting as well. We mentioned Enzo Fernandez. His underlying statistics are excellent, and he's already got to 41 points for the season. A couple of goalkeepers follow him up in Nick Pope and Roofs of Sunderland. Declan Rice is a behemoth when it comes to set pieces. And João Pedro is the only other forward in the top 20, which is a bit of a surprise, I think you'll say. Haaland leading the way, Pedro down in the middle of the second pack of leaders. 2 goalkeepers, 8 defenders, 8 midfielders, and 2 forwards make up the top 20 FPL point scorers. However, if you switch from top point scorers to top players for XGI, the league table here looks a little bit different. Erling Haaland leads the way again, as you would expect. He's got an XGI, an expected goal of 8.21. He's also got good fixtures coming up, as you can see there. Everton at home and Bournemouth at home in 2 of his next 3. Bruno Fernandes is second for XGI, expected goal involvement, 4.99. But within that, he has missed 2 penalties. So we're not going to dwell on him too much because obviously penalties really skew this statistic. Jean-Philippe Mateta, though, is third. He's got an expected goal involvement of 4.62. And that's despite the fact that he's only scored 2 goals. So when you look at someone like Mateta and you look at the XG potential of his side, best in the league, remember, he is a player who should have huge value going forward if Crystal Palace can sustain their form and their expected goal numbers. Mateta should be about to go off. So if you own him, congratulations. And if you don't and you think you can, maybe do all you can to get him. We mentioned Enzo Fernandez as well. He's the 4th best player for expected goal involvement, 5 attacking returns in 7 games for him. And also on this list, Victor Gyökeres, who has had a lot of criticism at Arsenal, but is there or thereabouts as one of the top players for XGI, and Brian Mbeumo, who has 2 attacking returns from an XGI of 3.43, and just further influences and emphasizes perhaps Manchester United's attacking threat. They've got 2 players in the top 10 here, and there's another in this little league of 11 to 20 top players for XGI. Amad Diallo coming in at 18th. He is the 3rd United player in the top 20. You'll also see Esteval Villian in here. He's got an expected goal involvement of 2.82. He will surely become a first teamer at Chelsea soon. Got that winner on Saturday against Liverpool and has looked the part every game he's played. I think the only thing holding him back is his age. Do be warned, though, he will be away on international duty with Brazil, so there's every chance he will not play from the start in game week 8. Bukayo Saka also makes this list. He's only played 2 full 90 minutes so far this season, and yet he is already up and running in terms of his expected goal involvement. So interesting numbers here. And Chris Wood also in there despite Forest's troubles is worth looking at. In terms of underachievers then, players with far lower XGI than you would expect, there are 5 main victims here. Ollie Watkins, who would have gone very early on every draft around the world, has an XG so far this season of 1.7 and an XGI of just 1.9 from 7 games. So he's currently ranked 35th for expected goal involvements in this league. Better, though, than João Pedro, who started the season like a house on fire, and his form has fallen off a cliff a little bit. He's got an XG for the season of 1.5 and an XGI of 1.7. He is ranked 42nd overall right now. And then you've got Jared Bowen, another player who would have gone very early on draft night, but again is hugely underachieving. Could be about to have an upturn in fortune now that Nuno's there, and hopefully West Ham will become a slightly more competent football team. But as it stands, 0.8 XG from 7 games is not good, and 1.3 XGI. He is 63rd in the XGI rankings. It's better than Phil Foden, though, who everyone's been saying has been playing very well for Manchester City. And I don't think you can argue with that. He has been playing very well. But in terms of his effectiveness up front and his impact in terms of creating XG and XGI, not so good. 0.7 XG from 7 games, 1.2 XGI. And then Karu Mitoma, I think you look at all the Brighton players, Mitoma would 100% have been the first Brighton player drafted in a large number of leagues. Maybe outside of Danny Welbeck, but he has had a minimal impact as well. Currently 91st for XGI. He's managed just 0.8 XG and 1.1 XGI. So hopefully those statistics will give you a little bit of food for thought ahead of game week 8. It is an international break, so there is a lot of time to have a little bit of food for thought. There's never enough time to prep those waivers, though. Always get on it early. Do your research. Hopefully stats will give you an idea as to what you want to do when it comes to those waivers. Always a good time as well to try and get a trade over the line in the international break, because there's more time to convince a rival manager that what you're offering is good. Not necessarily true, but lots of opportunity to convince them. Hopefully, though, it's been of benefit to you, this emergency pod, bonus pod, if you will. If you want to get in touch with us, there are many, many ways to do it. You can get in touch on social media on X and Instagram at FPL Draft Zone. And we're on Blue Sky at fpldraftzone.bsky.social. And of course, you can also email us at fpldraftzone@outlook.com. That is it from us for this week, though. We will be back in about a week's time with a full preview of game week 8. We'll also have those waivers that you can sink your teeth into as well. But until next time, all that's left for me to do is to wish you a very happy international break. Hopefully you can get through the ball fest without wanting to destroy your soul. And until next time, it is bye for now.